Hey everybody, it's Crypto Birb Nest speaking, and this is day 5 of our amazing 14-day free trading congress. Everybody, I'm super excited to welcome you. This is going to be pretty intriguing show. I've been waiting for this very broadcast, for this very session, webinar, you name it. It's going to be packed with information. It's going to be packed with technical analysis. It's going to be packed with tips, secret sauces, and you guys going to learn all of the best tricks from one and the only true Crypto 28, known as Mr. Anderson. And everybody, if you're in for the free ride, if you're in to hear what Mr. Anderson brought to you for today, make sure you stay tuned because we are going there right in a moment. Hey, everybody. Again, Mr. Anderson is on the show in our 14-day free trading congress. Welcome. How is it going, buddy? What's good?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here. It's an honor. I appreciate it. Happy to roll with you guys and learn as we discuss.
Amazing. Okay, for everybody who's new, we are going to get in the technical analysis old and new tricks combined. Okay, we're going to discuss what the veterans of the market, rarely ever tell you. There's going to be information. I don't want to say overload, but very valuable tips is what you're going to hear. And everybody, I just want to say that I've been, friends with Mr. Anderson for some time. It's been quite some long time, and I got always very impressed with how accurate Mr. Anderson's predictions were and always have been for Bitcoin, for other markets as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. But to start off, if that is fine, with everybody, Mr. Anderson, if you were to kindly introduce yourself tiny bit for everybody who's new to the show, tell us a little bit more about you.
Absolutely. So the short version for me is that I've been doing this for quite a while, right? I'm one of the dinosaurs in the game. I started in 1999. Short version of my story is very similar to the modern version of a lot of the people that have entered the crypto the last few years, which is that I entered at a hot time. I 125x'd my account. I thought I was a genius. But then I lost it all. I lost every single penny. And in reality, I was a terrible trader. I was a very slow learner. So everything that I've done, it basically took me a long time to achieve. And after bleeding it all back, I essentially began that slow process of getting it. So I like to kind of try to be a voice for the people that struggle, to let them know that, hey, you don't have to get this right away. There's a lot to it, and then eventually you'll find your way. So if I can help those people that were in a similar situation to myself that really got humbled, then I'm all for that.
Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, the what's I always what is all that I always found, very impressive about what you do is first of all the accuracy of the prediction. Second of all, like sticking to your own cans, like being very sure and somehow experienced, just like you said, experienced through the ups and downs. You pretty much know what you as a trader should or should not do, and this is something that I very much respect. And honestly, I'm not going to tell you even the perfect date, everybody that I know Mr. Anderson's from, but it's been quite a long time. We've been in touch, for quite some long time. And there's been insane growth. There's been insane growth on his ventures, and this is we're talking about 140 more than 140,000 people who are following Mr. Anderson on Twitter. By the way, make sure you actually go ahead and press the follow on this for account. This is True Crypto 28. True Crypto 28, Mr. Anderson. Go for it. Actually, smash the follow already because this is going to be mind blowing. Congratulations on your growth, Brady. Like, what's your secret strategy for growth? What is it?
I appreciate that. You know what's funny about what you brought up there in the beginning, as far as how far we go back. I actually can remember when I first ran into you because you had like the prettiest charts I've ever seen in my life. So even though I was And what I mean is not even the TA, because the TA is awesome, but I'm talking about you actually had a color tone on the chart that I remember. I was like, man, this guy's chart looks like art. Like, how is he doing this? So that was actually the first conversation I had to find out how were you actually designing the chart, because I was always basically white or black, which I still am, but that's a funny story. But yeah, the growth is something interesting because it's kind of two-part, right? I never intended for any of it. I would actually look at it as that I had a lot of growth, and then more recently during the bull market that actually stopped. So trust me, I'm not the one to give the secret to anyone. So I just want to try to help people that actually want to learn to do this for themselves. So there's no secrets there. I could tell you my secrets for trading and things of that nature. And believe it or not, like where you talk about, I seem very accurate and things of that nature. My secret, my superpower is the fact that I acknowledge that I know nothing. I do not know what's going to happen. I know nothing with certainty at all. And I think that the kryptonite that most people have is that they believe in what I call the crystal ball effect, right? They believe that they know. And that
Yeah.
is, if you know, then you don't have to manage, right? But if I acknowledge that I absolutely don't know the future, I can feel good about my directional bias. I can feel great about my research. I can feel great about what has happened. But none of us will put our life on what's going to happen, right? None of us are going to put a finger on what's going to happen. So because of that, what I do know is I can manage how much I can lose or how much I can give back. And I better be the best at that, right? I need to be one of the best at managing my losses, because the winners will happen, right? When you get into a huge trend, you're going to be there. You're going to be there to enjoy the fruits of that trend, as long as you manage not to give it all back during those problematic times. Because there's times where I'm off sides. I might even have the best TA. Sometimes you might see something, go, oh my God, this guy called the top. Maybe I didn't play it that well. I might have called it
That
without
was a
playing
good
it
couple
well.
of times you did it. That
Oh
was a good
yeah.
couple of times you did it. Now you're being humble.
No, because trust me, like recently, when this last top, I might probably started sniffing that out at 59,000 back in March. And then in reality, I was short from 60s to about 47. And I made the mistake of covering. I had all of my Bitcoin covered in a short, hedged. And then ultimately I took that off because I got caught in this really silly situation where I was looking at a weekly. I said, oh man, I think the 21 held. I like that. I'll take off my hedge. It was a huge mistake, even though I had a target of 28,000 that probably a lot of people reference. But I wasn't short from that time to 28,000. So I'm more than willing to admit that yeah, I might have had the call, but I didn't play it right. So that's the key, managing so we don't get beat up, right? So that's my secret in terms of trading. I just want to make sure that I'm holding on to my money first, and the winners will come. That'll happen in time.
Wow, that is barely like 8 minutes through the show, and I've already heard more than 80% of the traders would tell you in the market. That is pretty impressive. Like, well, we've already kind of like slightly started touching upon the TA part about the technical analysis. So to start with, like, I know that very, very lot of people, very big amount of people actually use technical analysis for many different reasons. So what is it? What is it that actually attracts you to the TA? What is it? Why TA? Why technical analysis for you?
It's a good question. I would say how I eventually got there. I did start with some TA, but I was trying to go down the FA road back in my early days when I was into stocks. And I'm not good at it. I'm open about that too. Like I didn't understand why anyone would want a smartphone. I'm open to tell everyone that when that came out, I thought that was stupid. Why would someone want a camera on their phone, right? So if I can't trust, if I could be that far off on that kind of technology, then why would I go at it from an FA perspective? Plus, there's just too many, right? So the reason why I believe in technical analysis is that I do believe that it's really about detective work. Technical analysis is just a study of what the crowd's doing. But someone like Wyckoff would say, he would refer to something as the composite operator that controls the market, looking at an entity, one person that controls it. Others would say it's smart money. Some others would say institutions guide the market. For me, that's all what I call useful fiction, right? And that's not mine. I stole it. But the idea is that that's a useful fiction where it's really a hindsight term, because we can easily go back and identify that inflection point. And if things turn down, we could say, oh, that was the smart money. That was the composite operator. Those were the people
It's
that
always
did the
obvious
right
in the
thing.
hindsight, isn't it?
It's always obvious. But with TA, we can have an edge in seeing, wait a second, this is a scenario where consolidation happens. This is a scenario where there's more likely to be a reversal than not. And you can get into those type of studies that can help you have a little bit of edge, because everyone's great in the trend, right? Especially the middle of the trend. But most people, especially newer traders, are terrible at those inflection points. So if we can be decent at the inflection point and then be also willing to switch sides, right? To be willing to say like, okay, well, I think it's long here. We see that swing failure come in and say, oh, I was wrong, and flip right then and there. That could be a 20% difference. Maybe that means adding more coin, adding more to your stack, or just protecting it. But I believe that TA can help you to identify that in a better way. And then in the trends, the TA is excellent for finding pivots, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. It is actually very interesting that you're bringing this point, because, like, not many people, most of the people, who can really apply the technical analysis well, they would say they would try to project, like, draw some, trend lines, whatever patterns most likely, most often, like, wrongly identified, and they would tell you, oh, the trend line broke. The technical analysis is shit. It doesn't work, right? Well, the truth is that if you cannot use or apply mathematics well, then you also tell the math sucks. Like, it doesn't work, right? But it's actually not maths that is a problem, but there is a very specific person that is a problem, that is not willing and resistant to actually learn and digest whatever they're touching, right? So it's been actually, not many people know that, but it's been actually academically proved and confirmed for many researchers in the financial sector that technical analysis is an essential edge, actually, that gives you that boosts your returns. You can get, with the help of technical analysis, you can get excessive returns. And this is something that is not really, just pulled that out of by my head. It's actually in the academic research, in the academic papers. It is confirmed mathematically, economically, like financially. It is pretty confirmed by the numbers that applying technical analysis, application of technical analysis, boosts your chances of gaining excessive returns. This is some big stuff. So anybody who just tells you, that the technical analysis doesn't work, it's most likely because they never open a book. They never open a proper book, right? And they just try to stick to their bias after getting losses for applying TA badly. So that is pretty crazy. But I can see the chart, somewhere being displayed here in the back end, in the behind the scenes. But before we display that, before we show off, I want to hear you talk a little bit about what technical analysis tools you're the biggest fan of, why, and why.
Absolutely. So for me, I mean, first of all, everything you said is absolutely correct, and it's good that they have research on it. But what I would say is everything that I have in life comes from it. So, my whole career is technical analysis. I don't need to hear from someone else saying yes or no or anything like that, because it doesn't affect me in a negative way or a positive way. But I know what edge is, right? So I mean, ultimately, once you've been through it and you understand that it's just more of a different language, that's the problem. There are subjective elements, but it's not about perfection. We're not trying to be perfect. We're trying to find edge, like you stated. So that was the key point that I think you made there, which is ultimately that, look, if I can find a way to have a little bit of edge in what I'm doing, then I'm going to beat the crowd. In reality, this game is me versus me, right? So if I'm not beating myself up like the majority of people are, then I'm giving myself an edge to make proper decisions, and again, to switch sides when I need to. But yeah, your question is a good one about tools. I mean, I always say over and over in a repetitive way where people probably get sick of it, that it's market structure first always, right? So always market structure first. That's always going to be the main thing that I'm looking at. But me personally, I love momentum indicators. There's an old saying, momentum before price. I use a suite that I created that's called True Vibration 2.0. It's a collection of various momentum formulas, some old school, some new school. But combined, I've used them to get tremendous edge. I also give people access to that. There's a no-cost option for that. If people contact me, that's fine. But for me, I would say that the best of the traditional indicators, in my opinion, is RSI. RSI, I feel, is the greatest.
Why would I know you would tell that?
I mean, that's. But I would also say that, look, RSI is a deep dive. You need to study it for a year to really know it. 99.99% of people do not use it correctly at all. And they see it, and that's really any indicator. I would say that, I also like things like Bollinger Bands or EMAs, but in my opinion, when I use a tool, and this really is key, I use it in a very specific manner. So when I use RSI, I might have 8 things that I like about RSI, right? But maybe with Bollinger Bands, there's 2 specific things that I'm looking for that I trust. The rest I don't. So if that shows up, great. And if I get confluence with that showing up, awesome, right? EMAs were what helped me to kind of start seeing the light 20 years ago. So I still have a love for EMAs, but I also use them in a very specific manner. I also use them in a way that most don't, right? And I find significant edge in that. So from that standpoint, what I would say is become a master, right? This is something else I tell everyone. Do not learn everything. Don't think you're going to learn, you're very comprehensive. Obviously, you're super knowledgeable, right? But most people shouldn't aim to be Birb, right? They don't go for that first, right? Go for something very specific that that you can trust and that you can go to over and over. There's enough assets out there that you can find that same setup over and over and over again. And if you have edge with it, just use that and then slowly add one more thing. See, what I always say is you should be able to teach a college course on an indicator that you use. If you use RSI, you better be able to show up for 9 weeks in school and say, here, for 3 hours a day, I can tell you more and more and more about the specifics about this indicator, right? Otherwise, how are you putting your entire life savings on the line, for these particular trades on something that you read for 15 minutes and thought, oh, this is how you use it, it's oversold? It's absurd. So treat it like a serious business, become a master at what you're doing specifically, and don't give up, right? You just got to keep on going because you got to be that forever student, because there's other guys out here, just if we have a minute just to tell you, these guys inspire me. Like, first of all, there's not a lot of big accounts that are good. There's just not, right? That are really big. And only people that should be offended by that is if they're a big account, that's not good. So anyone else shouldn't be offended. They should see it as he's talking about someone else. But someone like Scott Melker, right? The guy likes to say, oh, I'm not a good trader. Yeah, right. He's excellent, right? He's very specific with his support and resistance. He's very specific in the way he uses divergent.
I love Scott. He's a great guy.
He's disciplined in his approach and how he goes about it, right? But then other guys that I like a Nebraskan Gooner, right? This kid, I love his story, but this guy's very specific in the way he finds counter trends on a low time frame. He really uses a Wyckoff system. I never really spoke to him about it, but just in seeing it, we talk all the time, but we don't talk about that. But you can see that, his key is counter trends, right? He can find that UTAD, that low time frame, up thrust action and a distribution, and he puts himself in a position to find exhaustion in a good way. But it's specific, right? He's a master at that. If you know income sharks, this is a guy who identifies trends, right? He uses super trend. A lot of people think super trend is the most basic indicator in the world. Yeah, but yet he finds pivots with it combined with OBV over and over and over again. And the guy's excellent, right? Then there's guys that people don't know about. There's Castile Trading. This is a volume analysis guy, and he looks at, NPOCs and very specific at that. He sticks with that. I know a guy named Goomba, right? Goomba uses Shuvi forks. And he'll use that Shuvi fork over and over and over and over again. And all he's doing is putting out good material and no one cares, right? But the whole point is he's mastered that. So if you can master something specific, and these guys might be well-rounded and have other tools, I don't know. I'm not saying that they're only good at that. My point is they are masters at what they do. And I think that's what everyone's goal should be when they're finding any type of tool that there is.
Yeah, I mean, this is some golden words, everybody. By the way, if you've just joined, we are talking with Mr. Anderson, a very good friend of mine, who's here to actually tell you a couple of very good points, very big, bold, golden words that you guys should be putting down on your notes. I swear to you, I mean, I could not emphasize how much I agree. I could not emphasize more how much I agree with what Mr. Anderson is just sharing, because the truth is that the technical analysis is an edge to you if you truly master a certain area in it, right? Just like you were saying, basically, like, listen, it doesn't even need to be like TA alone. You have to be, mastering and continuously, just digging down the rabbit hole, until you actually just start gaining some decent returns out of that. But eventually, even if that comes, like, the market is dynamic. It doesn't mean it's going to stay like this forever. You have to keep pressing. You have to keep building and following your own very momentum about education that you should have. And that said, you said people tend to get like 15 minutes overview. They get to read a page or two when they open up a book, and they already, like, without logic context, they just read it out of any context. They just read it, I saw people do this many times. They take a trend line, they draw it poorly in the chart, which makes completely no sense, and then it acts differently than expected, and they're like, oh, okay, this sucks. Technical analysis doesn't work, right? And all you moon boys are just using your technical analysis, which doesn't work. So, so that is funny thing, but it's more of I think generational like tendency right now that people are becoming lazier and lazier every single day. Everybody wants you to kind of like get them spoon fed, right? Like you want quality stuff for free. You don't want to make any effort for that. You don't want to like even spend time learning. Best if it somehow magically just appears to be in your head, in your mind, so that you just apply it. And even though you probably would get wrecked on that. So um this side apart, this is funny, but why don't we play a couple of your charts? Why don't we play and show off a couple of your screen sharing tools, like the tools that you're using for the markets, the analysis? How does it look like? What is your secret out there?
Sure, absolutely. And we don't have time to get into too much, obviously, but I'm just going to kind of just point out a couple things that I just highlighted just for the heck of it. So when I say that I'm using moving averages and I like to look at them in a different way, what I would tell someone is like, be a little bit creative in your approach. Don't look at, a moving average cross means up, or that's the buy signal. It doesn't. I mean, just to really quick on that, it doesn't really matter what moving averages we use, but if we see the moving averages switch, right? Just something basic, like most people might know this, some don't. If you had a clock, right? You basically want your moving averages on that clock to put yourself in a position where they're between the 12 and the 2 o'clock range, right? So when you see this structure in your moving averages, then that's probably a more bullish scenario that you can look for longs in. But a more advanced way to might look at it, and I say advanced, it's really basic, right? Which is to say, let me set moving averages on my chart, but then I'm also going to set the same moving averages, and I'm telling you, it doesn't matter what they are, a high and a low, right? And here I think I got a 20 and a 50, right? Which I don't really even use. I just use this for the example. And I'm going to show you what I'm looking at. Forget what else is on there. This is an analysis screen that has a bunch of different things on it, but I just want to give some people an idea of what I'm looking at. And so you see what's circled. All this is a momentum indicator that I use, and these are moving averages set to that momentum indicator. This one's mine, but you can put it on RSI. You can put it on whatever your favorite one is. You don't have to use mine, right? So what happens is, now look what happens when I only find circumstances where the crosses both line up, right? So now I have blue over red, or blue over pink, and blue over pink here and here. In these scenarios, we're talking about here, boom, right? Here, right? So it was already here on the this is the momentum. It already crossed, but we're waiting for the price action, which doesn't happen till here on this retest. Local low, big move up. Let's look to the downside. All right, well, we had a cross here on the momentum, but they weren't matching. I promise you, if I don't have it circled, it didn't happen. So this is the only time that they match. Circle right here, right here. So now price action meets. And what do you end up getting? Now you might say, oh, it was late. No, it's 49,000 down to 28,000. Pretty damn good move. By the way, you can do this on other time frames as well. But this is an example for directional bias, right? Because what's key? If you know the direction, that's the key of everything, right? Same thing right here. They match. Okay, you didn't get much going, but what you don't get is trouble, right? You're not in big trouble. You're not getting flushed out on a 20 to 30% dump when these things line up. It's usually slow progression. Same thing right there. Huge move up. Right there. Huge move up. I didn't even go back to show you the ridiculous ones, right? That's right here. Right here, right? And you notice none of them are massive losses. Instead, they're just huge moves up. And the same thing on and on and on. So what am I doing? Am I doing anything crazy in advance? No. I've just taken a concept that says, well, let my momentum and my price action align. But let me do it in a way to where I'm looking at a few key points. Now, I'm using mathematics, but I'm not even going to explain the mathematics in this, right? Because that can tend to confuse people. What I'm looking for is confluence. And now I'm getting confluence in my price action as well as my momentum. Usually it's momentum before price. But in this example, it's a very simplified example that I can actually show people that they can say, oh, okay, that makes sense to me. On the downside, by the way, when you come off all-time highs, same scenario. You were waiting a while because you came from a boom market. But ultimately, when you got that set up, it's giving you the major dumps. It's the same situation over and over again. Now, we can get much more creative in how we look at things, so be it. But just that alone, I think, is enough to get people moving in the right direction so that their process and their mindset changes a little bit. But if we wanted to look at something else, just to kind of peek, I'm big into directional bias, as I mentioned, meaning if you find the directional bias of choice, then try to make most of your directions in that, most of your trades in that direction, say 80, 90%, if not all, especially if you're not a winning trader. I always ask the question. Someone will say something to me. I say, are you a winning trader? No. So why trade against the trend at all? It doesn't make any sense. Until you get that down, don't even try to go back and forth, long, short, long, short, long, short. Just look for your longs, know when to get out of trouble, and then wait for it to appear again until something changes. So this is another basic tool, right? This is directional bias indicator, right? What? Very simple. When it goes red, it literally stays red until it's green, meaning the more favorable trades are going to be looking for shorts, right? So this red one right here, again, I know I have a lot on the screen, but right in this moment right here, I can make it a little bigger while I make this one smaller. And what you see here is that once it went red, same scenario. That's where your massive dump is. You're starting to find your situation to where you'd only be looking for shorts. You see these pinks come in. I wouldn't care about anything green because I'm only looking for shorts. Pink, right at the pivot. Even here, we didn't quite go yet. Pink, you had one more, but then we turned green. Okay, now we're looking for longs again, right? So in that situation, you're only looking for one side of the market. So if someone tells me, hey, I can't trade this, and I don't want to lose anyone here, but if I'm in a situation where this is green and I know I'm only looking for longs, and if this is red and I know I'm only looking for shorts, well, then I'm going to tell you maybe you shouldn't be trading, right? Because I'm only looking for shorts in this time. I'm only looking for longs. And now guess what happens during boom time, right? It was green the entire way, right? And you don't know that it's going to stay green. By the way, remember, it's green until it's red. So even though this came off, we'll keep an eye out for warning signs, but we're still looking for longs until it turns red, right? That's the idea here. So in this situation, you don't know what's going to happen. As I say, I don't know. But why are most of my predictions right? Well, pretty simple, right? I'm basically just listening to the chart, right? That says majority of your trades should be long in this situation. And then I can get into something systematic to where I'm trying to find pivots. Now we zoom in, that's what these green ones are going to be. And I would only be looking while the longs are on, but that's 1, 2, 3. And this is just the software. This is the most simple code you can imagine. But yet it hits on 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in a row on a high time frame, literally giving you the exact pivot each time, right? Is it magical? No, it's a very simple code. I'll tell you offline what it is and you'll laugh, right? But the difference is it's something that I'm just looking at, keeping it simple while in the proper directional bias. So those are the type of tools I like to use. And then I'm big on divergence, right? I'm big on momentum. But in the direction, this would be my tip to everyone. Look for your excuse me, I lost my train of thought for a second there. Look for your divergence, but make sure it's in the direction of the trade that you want, right? So we always say we have a thought process of what our directional bias is. Not our bias, not our hearts, not our, hey, XRP is going to 1,000. No, what the chart's telling us, right? So in a situation like this where I say, all right, I'm only looking for longs, well, then I'm only concerned about bull divergence like this, right? I'm only looking for a local low to come in after I see something along these lines. And that's when I'm looking for a long, right? I'm only looking for a reset to come into the long side. All this is. And this is a simple divergence from pivot to pivot. And then I get a buy signal. And it really is keeping it simple. It might seem complex to people. They see all the colors. They see everything going on. No, not really. I'm literally just comparing 2 points in time. I'm keeping perspective of the higher time frame. And then I'm moving in at a pivot at that point once I see that the pattern, the consolidation looks as if it's had enough time.
I can see. Sorry to interrupt. I can see a lot of questions in the comments about whether or not you could give the name of these indicators one more time for the viewers.
It's True Vibration 2.0. Anyone that's interested, again, I give a free there's no cost, so don't pay anyone. If a scammer jumps on, that's normally what happens. They say, hey, you can get this indicator for this amount of money. There is no cost. Just DM me on Twitter and we take you through some questions just to make sure that we're covering ourselves, and then everyone can get access.
Perfect, beautiful. Yeah, I love listening. I love listening to it. Perhaps I'm not going to get into too much commentary, from what I can see, but what Mr. Anderson is everybody sharing with you, I think those are very principial, very fundamental meanings and then kind of like substances for traders. Like the truth is, again, that not everybody will be a good trader. Like even if you wrote an instruction, literally step by step, point by point, do this, do that, and do this, do that, so like in a sequence, 90% of them, 90% of people on average would still screw it up, right? You can do literally copy paste every single move that somebody does on Twitter, and you would still get different results. And this should be expected, right? At the same time, not everybody is going to be a good trader because, well, that's how our world functions. I was supposed to be a doctor the other day. I didn't manage to get on my medical university, and I ended up being a chemical technology engineer. Like perhaps I would not make it a good actor, right? So that's my point. Not everybody is a good actor. Not everybody is a good like airplanes, mechanical engineer. Not everybody is a good trader either. So if you want to be a good trader, then you either better have good dedication to understanding and mastering the skill that you practice, or you just purposely agree per your own request to lose money deliberately, which is even worse probably. So just a side note, we are not here, to be honest, to tell you like what you want to hear, right? Many people would come in and they would want to hear that we pat them on the shoulders and say, hey, everybody's it's going to be all right. For 90% of people, it's never going to be all right, and that's the problem. So either you may choose to live in denial, right, or you can escape this denial and just like following this matrix vibe of Mr. Anderson in the Twitter profile, you can actually wake up one day and decide, okay, something is going wrong. Something is I'm not trading the way I should be. So what can I do about that? How can I improve? And well, participating in this very Congress, 14-day free trading Congress, and watching this very show with Mr. Anderson is one of the elements to the game. It's one of the puzzles, one of the puzzle pieces to actually make a complete puzzle for you. So keep watching, smash the likes, leave some kind questions and comments to Mr. Anderson, because we would do our best perhaps to cover last 5 minutes to answer perhaps some of them. Smash the like, hit the subscribe button, go ahead and listen for what Mr. Anderson is about to continue sharing with you. Please go ahead.
On the point that you just brought up, I would tell you that, the one thing I would say, you mentioned that people are lazier today, and they might be, but this is something that all the old pros used to say as well. They would say, there's an old saying, right, that I could post my exact trading plan in the newspaper and it wouldn't matter, right? So I mean, it's been going on. I think really nothing changes. I just think maybe we have more of those traders, but in reality, it's just a scenario to where people fall in love with a bias, in my opinion. So I mean, that's what happens, but it's not a directional bias. See, I get a directional bias from the TA, right? I mean, like the screen you're looking at, yellow is boom time, right? So I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that we're in boom time when you see this yellow pop up, and that's just basic TA stuff. I'm not looking at anything super advanced. It's just a creative way to look at things. Green is great and yellow is boom, right? So the idea is that I'm only looking to listen to directional bias unless I'm trying to fade on low time frames. Whereas other people, they're really trying to fall in love with something. It doesn't matter if there's a failure pattern. They still believe, again, I hate to pick on the XRP guys, but they're just such a known example because for 3 years in the most dramatic bull market in the world, still XRP is the standard. It's the standard. It doesn't matter. And by the way, they're the most popular guys on Twitter, right? The most popular guys on Twitter all have been pushing the worst piece of crap for years. It's unbelievable.
I know.
And by the way,
It's
if you have
hilarious.
believed, it's okay if you believed and it didn't happen. It's not being wrong doesn't bother me. It really doesn't. When I'm wrong, I promise you, I tell the people, look, I'm wrong. I might come off. Sometimes I probably come off like a smart ass on Twitter. It's a joke. When I do it, I'm being funny. Like most people don't realize, they don't see sense of humor, that if I post something or repost it 100 times as a show off, it's really humor. You know what I mean? It's nothing more than that, because I kind of find crypto Twitter funny at times. But regardless of that, I would say that this topic is serious, because the secret to that is just knowing thyself, right? You want to learn your strengths, your weakness, and never quit, because those 90% that you're talking, and it's probably even a higher percentage than that, what ends up happening is they quit. I told my story in the beginning. I should have been that guy. I should have quit. I sucked. I want people to understand, right? I was terrible at this, but I wasn't terrible like most of the people listening. I was terrible in that for years. I was terrible. And it didn't make sense because I was a smart guy. I was successful in everything else I ever did in life. And for whatever reason, this new language of trading, I couldn't process it. Part of it was I came in the Super Bowl market, then got chopped up after the internet bubble, and I got bear goggles, which is another disease where I just seen everything as bearish, and I was afraid at that point because I'd been burned and I'd been humbled. I lost my money, I lost my family's money. So I get it. I understand, but the key is you must fight your ego. Your ego wants to take the credit. Your ego is going to want to say, I'm the guy, right? I predicted this. It's crystal ball effect, right? I know what's going to happen. Don't worry. They're coming for your bias. They're coming for your money. And then Burb's going to have all your money, no matter how much you make, because when things flip, he's going to be ready to be flipped, right? Instead, you're going to be thinking, no, because what they want is more, right? No matter what, it doesn't matter. They say, oh, my target is $50, but it gets to 50, and they go, well, I want it at 200. Then it gets to 200, they want 500, and now it's back to 50, right? And they lost it all because
100%.
they want more, right? So I mean, the idea is keep learning. You got to learn that if you got an ego in this game, you could be jokeful with your ego, but if you really have an ego, it's coming for you. Your day's coming, and that kind of makes me the most worried. I know a little off subject here, but it's relevant for these people that are listening, which is that if you are doing very well, I promise you, they're still coming for you, right? Maybe it's a year out, but 70% of the people that really do well, at least, are going to get washed out at the end. So how do you get around that? Never stop learning. Never believe. I mentioned all those guys. Those guys inspire me, right? Someone like you, I see it. It inspires me. It motivates me. I need to be better. I see this guy doing something good. I need to be better. I see the new kids that are getting popular. I like he's doing something different. He's thinking outside the box. I need to think outside the box too. Maybe I'm not changing, but I'm looking. Does this make sense? Can I add that? Can I add this? Because what I was and what I've evolved to is very different. Maybe it's not even better, but it's different because I'm trying to improve more and more and more. And that's what everyone needs to do. They just need to realize that doesn't mean spending 24 hours in front of the chart, but be effective in the time that you do spend in front of the chart. Document your trades, especially your losses, right? Winners aren't the best lessons. You know what I mean? The losers are the lessons. You paid for them already. You paid for that loss. So let it sink in and develop a system around it to find out, hey, did I lose that one just because in trading we never are sure and I like my chances, or was I completely offsides? If I'm completely offsides, I need to come up with a rule that's going to prevent me from entering that type of trade again. So that's the
I
key, in
love
my
it.
opinion, is just never think you have it. Keep going.
I love it. I love it. I could not agree more, everybody. This is I see comments like truer words never been spoken, and I fully agree and I fully back it. Well, being more than a half an hour through the show, we still have about 10-15 minutes to perhaps go through something that many people I can see in the comments are actually looking for, which is what's going on with Bitcoin. If we are to hop on Bitcoin's chart right now, and if you were so kind, just kind of and actually give us a little bit overview for what do you think is going on, what do you think is going to happen within the next days, just purely your opinion, your expectations, not financial advice. Sorry, guys, not this time.
Yeah, no problem at all. No problem at all. So, I mean, what I would say is in I know going back, I got to give a little bit of history, right? So back from 8,000, I said 69,000. I thought this was a minimum target, right? And we kind of made a straight shot to it. That was from about here. And we almost made it. We got to about 65, then obviously huge dump off, clearing out a lot. And then we just touched that 69 number that I had in my head. I don't have it prepped up, but there's a high time frame line that I like that is essentially running right through here. I wish I had it for you, but I'll give you a ballpark idea because it doesn't really matter specifically. It's something like this, let's say, that we've been tapping. We literally tapped it here, and here, and we need to close above it on a weekly level. And the idea of it is pretty simple. It's a linear based line. And if over years, this is going back from 2016 to here, if over a year's time, we basically now take out that particular level and close above it, you're now moving more from that linear scale, right, back into a parabolic move. And a parabolic move in that particular realm is going to look pretty absurd. I think we're going to melt faces in that environment. So I am one of these crazy believers of the gigantic numbers that are probably in the 200,000 range, but I don't think it matters. Is it 150? Is it 180? Is it 250? Is it 320? Who cares? I'm going to evaluate at that time, really. and evaluate the data as it comes along. So my point is if we start seeing a weekly close, even above this high that we just recently set, I think that's it. Where we're going, in all likelihood. But, stay tuned to Twitter. I'll announce that, especially on Telegram. I put charts on there as well. It's free, ultimately just to give people kind of what my thoughts are. But I'm always managing. I'm not ever thinking like, hey, 3 months out or anything along those lines, because what I want to know is what has happened. That's the only thing I care about, right? Because what I think is going to happen in 3 months, I'm going to have 2 months and 27 days of data until I really need to know what happens in 3 months. You know what I mean? So I'm going to evaluate the data as it comes in. But in this situation, if I'm looking at what is happening, I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. At the moment, we have top side support, right? Meaning we're on the top side of the weekly all-time high back in March, April territory. And we've been building on top of that. I mean, this is market structure first always on the high time frame. This is a great thing. Now, should we lose that? We got plenty of areas where we can kind of hang out and stabilize. I mean, this is a significant bull move. There's nothing bearish about this in any stretch of the imagination, no matter what anyone wants to tell you, except on the lower time frames, right? For the lower time frame, guys, great, but I'm looking at a high time frame, and I think that's where a lot of people get mixed up. If I'm talking about a weekly, I'm going to only reference a weekly, right? So a lot of people, they see what's going on in the 5 minutes, like, oh, it's terrible, we're dead. No, just relax, zoom out a little bit. And in this case, the way we've been building, right, this is a dream. This is a dream scenario. Now, doesn't mean the dream scenario plays out, but building here and running from this level is really the shock and awe type of move that's going to introduce Bitcoin to the world, in my opinion, from a technical side. So if I see this range hold and now we level up, just meaning we close a level above this level, I think we're off and running. I'm watching these levels. Should we close under it, I will absolutely begin to look for some shorts in that situation. But that's on the high time frame on the weekly. If I move to a daily scale, very normal action here in what we're seeing, in that we're getting a consolidation. I actually been mentioning this more recently. Like, I use a tool here. This one is FSR, this little skinny line. I'll try to make it bigger for people. And ultimately, let me get rid of this blue one. This line that I'm gonna make bigger is what's called full vibration, right? So I mean, to me, like, this is the goal. This is what guides any type of movement. Law of vibration, people can look into that. But I like to look at this little line versus this big line, right, for momentum. And anytime this little line crosses below, those are our consolidation periods, right? And it's extremely consistent. There is dramatic edge in this, right? So cross below, more of a consolidation period, right? Now, that doesn't mean that you won't get these chops like you get, but what also matters is the direction of this particular line. So while it's down, we need it to cross back up. It's going to take some time. So if we see this guy hook up again on the daily, again, that's something that's going to allow us to go to the next level and level up from that standpoint. But we are, and again, one of these major consolidations that we've seen, and it has extended itself for quite some time. That's why the momentum hasn't been there. You see, you got this green area. When the greens come, that's when things take off. It's just a momentum reading again, right? So you have this situation here again. We haven't seen it yet, right? So this is reaching a level. Again, now I am talking about some tools that some people don't know, and I apologize, but it's just a reset like this. And I mentioned this yesterday on Telegram, that I'm just hoping that this actually resets, because this is the most bullish scenario. If I get one of these, I'm going to end up getting a signal like this. Sometimes you get a complicated one where there's one more divergence, but these are pretty consistent. Now, again, this is a time where we weren't looking for longs, but once we were looking for longs again, you could see how accurate they are, right? In these, back in the bull market.
Pretty impressive.
It hit 9 in a row back in the bull market. And again, it's a simple formula. I promise you, it's the most simple thing. It's just that you're looking at it at the right time, and right now is that time, right? So that is something that is quite significant. But I'm always looking for, where am I wrong, right? At the moment, we're consolidating. And if we show weakness, then I'm going to pay attention to it. So this is what I posted on Telegram recently, which I think is more up to date with what's going on. Anyone that's on Telegram can kind of confirm that. But here's what I said we were looking at, that, hey, personally, I'm only looking for longs. I don't have the time to dig into shorts at the moment, so I'm waiting patiently. But this is market structure first always, right? This is a very basic failure pattern, right? You basically had a little bit of a consolidation here, a little pullback on the H4, the 4-hour chart. We failed through it, rejection. And basically what I stated is, anyone looking for shorts, look for exhaustion in these areas, right? We got that here, nice dump down. We did see a rally. There was reasons to long here as well. But again, same scenario, dump down again, pretty standard, ABC type move at the moment. It's trying to hold some support. So it's just going to come down to, does the support hold? I think it probably will, right? It looks like we're resetting. I think it's more about time than anything else. So you can always have a situation, you know, I'm saying that, but the day's not closed. So could today change my mind? Yeah, if we close much lower, that's going to change my opinion. But as things stand, I probably think we're going to start building again here. We'll basically start to see some tests. Now, these people that don't understand, you know, I think a more advanced, and I probably shouldn't even talk too much about it, but what people want to get into eventually is character above anything else, right? So when you're more of an advanced trader, you're looking at the character of the market. So I'm looking at effort versus result, right? So this is pretty clear distribution patterns on very low time frame. This was a daily scale swing failure over here. Now we're seeing the H4 actual failure pattern, market, what I would call market structure failure pattern. So hey, bears have something, but they only have it on the low time frame, right? Other than something on the high time frame that was the swing failure. This is true. This is a swing failure that I'm a little bit concerned about and watching, but I've seen those be overcome many times. So in the worst case scenario, I would think that if we were going to reverse, now remember, I don't believe we're going to reverse and go down, but I promise you I won't be caught off sides either if it happens. But even if we do, I would say that we're still going to come up one more time if that's going to happen, meaning one more time before the failure. Now, I don't see that happening. I think we're going to probably base here, build and go. And I think if you take out this level on even on a 4-hour close, it's time to roll. And we could probably find something even better, but I would need a little bit more data for that. Ultimately, though, get back above this level, which is what? You're talking 66.5. I know that's far away, but in my opinion, that means go time. Like literally, I'd feel really confident saying, yeah, we're going to be off to the races at that point. On the shorter term, you can come in, draw something like a trend line. I always advise people just draw a trend line just to kind of see where things are. Why? Because if you run into this level, yeah, we're probably going to see a rejection, especially if you see exhaustion. Look for your divergence at that point, and that's going to open you up to say, okay, well, we need a little bit more time, because time's the ultimate key, right? Time is more important than price. Time is more important than momentum, everything like that. When the time is ready, then we're going to roll. But ultimately, because nothing's written, they don't know how many people are going to get off sides. If funding's out of control and we're back at this line, we're going to pull back. So again, it's never about knowing, but I'm going to establish my high time frame supports, look for reasons to long, you know, plays like this, I probably would take, you know, as you can see that the light turns green right as we say it. So if we close above this level, yeah, I'm probably going to take a long to go up and see where we're at. Not that I know that this is the next move, but that's going to let me evaluate the effort of taking out this bar. This is a supply bar, right? So, I mean, ultimately there's supply in there for sure. And there was willing supply, but I'm going to watch now and evaluate, are the sellers going to still be there on the next attempts down? That's what's key. You know, that's where that you get into that effort versus result. If we don't see that effort anymore, that means the sellers are giving up. And that's not what you want if you're a bear in this environment where you're dealing with this chart, right? This isn't a chart you want to see sellers giving up in, right? They need to move fast in a situation like this. So the bulls need to reclaim this little 200 EMA that I kind of keep an eye on everything I do. If they do that, they can build and start to go, in my opinion. But I see, you know, to answer your question, my gut feeling tells me we're going to never land to some crazy numbers. I'm a big believer in the everything bubble. I do think alts will go nuts as well once that occurs. And I think it's time to capitalize on all the mistakes that are being made by terrible leaders, but that's a different conversation to have. We could do a whole nother hour.
We could align really well there, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. So really that's it from that standpoint. But yeah, you know, I'm pretty much in line with what I have felt, which is that we're going places. You know, my indicators would tell me the same, but we are at a little bit of that, you know, indecision point. Anytime you're in that consolidation, we might find out that, you know, nothing's written. Like I said, if there's people there that decide they want to unload enough supply, then we'll go down first. And by the way, if that happens, I'll smile. I'll be happy. I'll be happy to take the better prices, because in this environment, I don't need to be perfect. I'm protecting myself again, and I'm waiting for the clear signal. Then at that point, right? So I'll give you an example. Like I think a mistake that a lot of rookies make is they say, let's say they sell at 62. So they sold 62,000. They got out because they saw a failure. Good. You're acting like a pro. You cut your loss. But then prices at 65, they'll say, oh, well, I don't want to buy this buy signal because I sold at 62. Well, no, who cares where you sold? You know, it's the next trade. You know, I don't care where I bought or sold or anything along those lines. You need to put yourself in a position to where you're managing that next trade. If it shows you that it's a good opportunity, take it. You can have a great sell at 62 and a great buy at 65. That's okay, and that makes sense. That's trading. Trade to make money, not all the money, just money, right? So that's the
Yeah,
idea. And again, I think people kind of put themselves in that position often, but that's where I'm at with
yeah,
that. I'm still bullish, and I'm long until I'm wrong. I'm happy to do that. That's been going on for a long time, right? From 29, from we got several opportunities, low time frame. We had 40 again. I was loving the setup back then. So in these times, I'm the first to admit that it's more tricky, right? Like I showed that little indicator. This level right here indicates that, yeah, you can certainly see some more consolidation in terms of where the momentum picture is. So I have to see how that's going to unwind. And I also want to see by the end of this day, I think today's important, right? How does this candle look at the end of the day? That's going to give me a little bit more of an idea of how extended this will be. If buyers step in, they buy this thing back up. I mean, you might even see this as the swing failure by the end of the day. If it looks like sellers were able to hold, then hell, that's a supply bar that we have to overcome, and it's probably going to take a little time. And I'm okay with either one.
yeah, yeah. I love it. Listen, I think this has been pretty big amount of very valuable information and tips. And while we have about 5 minutes left, we need to rush to wrap the show. I want to let everybody know very quick. We have a giveaway going on right now, and occasionally there is a giveaway code shared in the tape. Right now in the screen, you can check a giveaway secret code True Crypto, and we have a giveaway which is going on. I think you can get to win. It's actually what was that? I think this time was a free membership of calls only subscription in Birb Nest. So basically free money, but more than free money, it's free knowledge, which is way more valuable than money ever can be. So I highly encourage you, go ahead, guys, smash the likes, hit the subscribe button as well, and visit the description, okay, for the video, because on our YouTube, where the description for the video is, you're going to find a giveaway link. Go ahead, put in the giveaway secret code True Crypto, and get yourselves some free knowledge, okay? And while we have, as I said, about 3, 4, 5 minutes left till we have to wrap the show, I know there is a lot of comments. I know there is an insane amount of comments. We are not going to be able to go through all of them, but I want to give you something special. So my question to you, brother, to Mr. Anderson, for everybody, is let's say, what is your plan? Like, if you were to very briefly tell about your plan for the next 3 months, and what your tips for the newcomers are.
All right, absolutely. So, I mean, tips for newcomers are the things that I kind of went over that I'll definitely repeat, which is one, never quit, right? If it feels hard, it's because it's hard, right? Trading is difficult. You guys are watching people on crypto Twitter, no offense to them, but 90% of them that are making it seem so easy, it's not. If I make it seem easy, it's not, right? Anyone will attest for that. Now, there's times where it feels easy, right? There's times where you can't go wrong, but looking at the totality of it, trading is difficult, right? So ultimately, hang in there, keep pushing, keep learning, and know that yes, you're getting involved in something to where I always try. I think the other language example is a good one, where it's like learning a new language. But the difference is, if I learn Spanish, I know English, right? So I can refer to a word, right? I can say, all right, well, the English word for that word is this, and then ultimately I can learn it in that way. Well, this is not only a new language, but it's a language to where there's no comparisons, right? So there's nothing that you can compare it to and be like, oh yeah, well, it's the same as this, unless it was business. I would give a business comparison and say, look, in business, if you have inventory, if you can get that inventory cheap, right? So there's a big sell-off, you're going to buy inventory, okay? And your goal is to buy it at retail or even premium prices. So take profits, right? Put money in your pocket, bank some. These are the basic tips that everyone says, but no one really does them. That's the idea. So never quit, be a forever student, know yourself, learn your strengths, learn your weaknesses, right? And stick with your weaknesses, because the strength's going to get to you. That's going to get to your ego, and then the trap is being set. You don't know it. But the other thing I would tell people is get good at hindsight. It's okay, because it's easier in hindsight for sure, but you better be able to see that first, because I have noticed on Twitter that the overall TA knowledge has gone down dramatically, right? There was a time where I was like really impressed, like, oh, look, man, people are getting sharper. But now it's less. Like, you might put something very basic. They don't know. Google's your friend. YouTube's your friend, right? Put yourself in a position, but then also go to the chart, spend an hour and see if you can put those things in, and say to yourself, like, hey, not only did I understand the concept, but I see it and I trust it, right? So that's kind of the thing. As far
Beautiful.
as, the next 3 months for me, I'm expecting bullishness. Again, I'll wait to see how we play out this zone, but if we level up again, literally I go to a very easy process of where I'm looking for divergence on the highest time frame and I'm playing it, right? It's just more of looking long and looking for reasons to long in those scenarios. And then, I have some tools that help me to say, take my foot off the gas. And that's kind of what I'm looking at in those situations as well, where I say, all right, well, time to take my foot off the gas in this scenario and go from there. So that's really it. I keep it kind of simple. I mean, ultimately, if we level up significantly, well, then my eyes are going to go to alts in that situation, because I'm going to want to play those consolidations in Bitcoin and make sure that I'm taking advantage of what should be some insane type of scenarios. And in that, don't try to make it all, guys. With an alt, smaller position, wider stop, you're looking for multiples if we do get that level up, right? Assuming that happens. So you don't have to, if you have a $50,000 account, definitely don't put 50,000 in an alt, right? You can spread it out a little bit, find a couple that you like, and then ultimately, if a couple of them hit, you're going to be in good shape. But that's a little bit of a sidetrack, but I know people get buried in that. The idea here is protect your money first. This is like the number one thing that people don't understand. It's so hard to recover. If you go from 50,000 to 25,000, you got to double your count to break even. It's a terrible mistake. Professionals cut their losses. Professionals say, I'm wrong here. You find out where you're wrong before the trade. If I have a trade on here, I'm coming into my chart and I'm going to say, damn it, I'm 1 ATR below this level. I'm wrong, period. That's it. What I thought was happening wasn't happening. And I take my loss like a man, and that's it. And there's no other way to put it. You take your loss like a man and reevaluate from that point, because that's protecting your money. Because that guy, I promise you, is going to do much better than the guy who's showing these huge winners. But then when we went from 65 to 29, suddenly they disappeared from the scene. Why? Because they got wiped out. And it happens a lot. And it can happen, by the way, it's not only bad traders. It happens to very talented, very good traders. Yeah, I've seen great traders. In fact, I'll share one last story. I know it's running out of time. I'll make it short. I was good by 2008. It was the best year of my life. But something happened to me again. I felt like I could do no wrong. And in the first quarter of 2009, I took on a trade that I thought was going to be my Rockefeller trade and take me just to this other level. And I basically pissed away all my 2008 trade gains in one trade. And to make it worse, it was options. I could have gotten out and still maintained 35%, which is a huge amount of money at the time, right? I could have just sold my position. It would have been a 65% loss, but hell, that was a lot of money. And I had so much pride. I was so hurt that I couldn't do it. And I was dead wrong. I stayed onto my bias, even though I was a good trader by that time, and it crushed me. And it put me in a position to where I took 3 to 6 months off, but that took me to that next level. So you can avoid that by starting with that basis. Start with the basis of, I'm not going to allow myself to lose it all.
Yeah, I think, just again quoting some comment that I saw, truer words have never been spoken. And everybody, I'm here to remind you for the final time, we have a giveaway going on. Go ahead. There's a giveaway code, which is going to be displayed right in a second. Exactly. Giveaway super code, True Crypto. Try your luck, try your chances. Video within the description to the video on the YouTube, you're going to find a giveaway link. Get yourselves chances to win free knowledge, which is way more than money, way more valuable than money ever can be for you. Knowledge is the power. And that's what I think, which is one of the main giveaways, one of the main takeaways as well. The knowledge is power in here. And everybody, what can I say more? Mr. Anderson, my great friend and some very, very impressive person as a trader, as a person, as a human. I want to thank and appreciate your time and generosity of the wealth of the knowledge that you shared with the 14-day Free Trading Congress participants. Thank you on behalf of my own, on behalf of the Birb Nest, and on behalf of the entire community watching that. Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you having me. And anytime you need me, I'm here, brother.
Amazing. That's all, folks, for today. And make sure, for today's session, because there's going to be another show coming, lining up very, very soon. Not in an hour. It's actually in an hour. I think it's going to be in an hour. Stay tuned. Big names are following up. And make sure you follow Mr. Anderson on Twitter, TrueCrypto28, TrueCrypto28. Go for it. And I see you guys on another shows. That's all. Thank you. God bless.